Why was Half-Life so good? If I asked you what you were doing in 1998, could you tell me? I certainly can't remember that far back, but there is one thing I know for sure I did in 1998. I played the original Half-Life. Let me just quickly put that into context for you. That was 18 years ago. That's potentially older than some of you watching this video. Yet, despite its age, it still remains one of the most well-known and most influential PC games of all time. Let's take a look at why. This game puts you into the shoes of Gordon Freeman, a seemingly ordinary man just going through another boring day at work at the Black Mesa Research Facility. Gordon is a theoretical physicist, although for a physicist he sure knows his way around a gun, as you'll soon find out. Gordon is taking part in an experiment at the facility that goes horribly wrong, and he just about escapes with his life. Basically, some stuff blows up, a dimensional seam opens up, destroying most of the facility, and aliens from another dimension called Zen hop through to take over the world. Like I said, just another boring day at the office. Mr. Freeman ends up fighting his way through the aliens, but also the US Marines who are deployed there to cover up the incident. And Half-Life came out hot on the heels of two of the most well-known FPS games of all time, Doom, which released in 1993, and Quake in 1996. The game itself was built using a game engine called Gold Source, which was actually heavily based on the Quake engine from '96, but this game, despite maybe being inspired by Quake, was very, very different. Half-Life had a story to tell, and despite Gordon Freeman not saying a single word in the entire game, you build a strong connection with him. He's just a normal guy in the wrong place at the wrong time, trying to understand what the hell's going on and to survive. The differences between this game and that game before it were apparent right from the start. At the beginning of the game, you're on a tram heading through the Black Mesa facility. You can walk around the tram, look around, but you can't get off it. It serves as sort of an intro to the game while giving you a small element of control. Safety announcements can be heard constantly along the way, and they comically almost predict the future. In fact, the entire game is littered with comedy elements. It never actually takes itself too seriously, even when you're faced with some tough decisions. In Quake and Doom, you were put into a level and made to kill everything in your path until you found the exit. Once you passed one level, you moved on to the next until you completed the game. Half-Life, however, wanted you to work a little bit more for the reward. It wanted you to turn valves, no pun intended, crawl through vents, traverse electrified water, and even travel to the Zen home planet later in the game, which really changed the pace and visual aspect of the game. That's not to say it wasn't linear though, because it was, but it worked really well. Not only did it work, it was satisfying, it was also seamless. The game played out like a story. Gone were the standard levels of killing enemies, and in place a progressive story that asked just as many questions as it answered, and it didn't give you all the answers either. You had to kind of make things up for yourself and interpret just what the hell was going on. Playing through Half-Life, you never really felt like you were on a predetermined linear path. Instead, you felt like you were carving your own way. It also made you question if you were actually the good guy or not. I mean, you're killing aliens, but you're also killing a lot of US Marines as well. Is that what a good guy does? You tell me. There were no cutscenes either like you get from a lot of newer games. The entire story was told from within the game's engine, with NPCs talking to you and communicating about how bad the situation was and aiding you along the way. As such, you never actually see Gordon Freeman's face, although he does appear in the menu and on the game's CD case. That's right, remember those PC games coming in massive boxes with CD cases and big manuals in them, and not the usual DVD cases that we're now used to. Gordon was helped by some pretty important tools that he had at his disposal. An orange HEV suit, which would become pretty iconic when thinking of Half-Life, that would save Gordon's skin on more than one occasion. And this was able to protect the user from radiation, energy discharge, blunt force trauma, although head crabs seem to be a little out of its area of operation. As well as the suit though, Gordon would obtain something no theoretical physicist would ever be without, a crowbar of course. He would use this to break crates to either find ammo or health, or to progress through an area, as well as of course using it as a last line of defense against those pesky aliens. Never before has such a simple item become such an iconic reference to a video game, but the crowbar is almost as iconic as Gordon Freeman himself these days. The artificial intelligence in the game was also fantastic, especially for the time. We're talking 18 years ago here, and Valve took the Quake engine and rewrote the AI element from scratch, and it really paid off. Soldiers in this game were relentless. They would throw grenades at you, they would flank you. It was relentless and a real challenge, especially on the harder difficulty levels. But it wasn't just the AI that made the combat feel great though, the weapons certainly played their part too. Sure, the crowbar was great, but sometimes you needed a bit more firepower. You had your standard guns like the MP5, the Spaz shotgun, and not forgetting the trusty Glock 17 that helped you on your way, but there were so many more exciting, futuristic weapons. The glue-on gun, the Tau cannons, trip mines, satchel charges. There was so much fun to be had in the way that you took enemies out. Combine all of this with a mystery character and you've got something special. The G-Man, as he is known, was a man that would appear throughout the game just watching over you. He would pop up in windows that were inaccessible, down corridors, just out of reach but always watching. A mysterious man in a suit, but what did it mean? Who was he? Why was he there? Well, I need to finish the game damn fast to find out. I think that was the feeling that it gave you. It even had some additional add-on content after release, courtesy of Gearbox Software in Opposing Force. That was an excellent single-player expansion pack, probably one of the best of all time in my opinion, and it gave you a different perspective and let you see the game's story from some characters you actually meet on the way. In that, you're actually playing as one of the US soldiers deployed in the game. So the single player was fantastic and engaging, and while Half-Life did have a multiplayer deathmatch mode, it was the mods that came flooding in that would keep Half-Life going for years to come. Team Fortress, which had previously been a Quake mode, was brought across to the Half-Life engine and new mods started to appear such as Day of Defeat, and of course we can't talk about Half-Life without mentioning Counter-Strike, because without Half-Life there would be no CS as we know it. Counter-Strike has been a competitive shooter for over 10 years and no other competitive shooter has had that sort of longevity and scale, and that's all thanks to Half-Life. Of course we got a sequel in Half-Life 2 and we hope one day to see Half-Life 3, but we of course are now familiar with the term Valve time. Valve releases things in their own time, and to leave, I will remind you that Half-Life itself was delayed by a year because Valve wanted to get it right. And they did. So when or if Half-Life 3 is ever released, it will be because Valve think it's well and truly ready. As always, thank you for watching guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Give me a thumbs up if you did, a thumbs down if you didn't, and I'll see you in the next one.